I am not super knowledgeable about this, and I know it's something that you watched, and I'm really curious to hear your take on this. So, cancel Netflix is trending. We've
Yes.
got this, I guess, movie, documentary, whatever you want to call it, called Cuties. Um, like I said, I haven't seen it. I know you have, and you know you've got some opinions on this. So we'll go ahead and turn it over to you and let you run with it, baby.
Yeah, so first off, before anyone gets it twisted, the only reason why I watch this is so I could absolutely obliterate it on YouTube, on our podcast, just to have one more voice out there speaking against what I just witnessed. Um, it's ridiculous and it's disgusting. Hey, Darth Vader. um, and as I was doing a little bit of research on it, I found out. Okay, so number one, if you go to Wikipedia right now, okay, and for those people who don't know, this is a French film, okay, and it is described as 2020 French coming of age drama film. A coming of age
What
drama
does
film.
coming of age mean exactly? That sounds like just some kind of fluff that doesn't really mean anything.
To me, whenever I hear coming of age, I instantly think like cutting edge, like brand new, like, hey, this is a trend, like you need to have eyes on this because, if you don't get on this bandwagon or if you don't get on this, train, you're going to miss it basically. Um, Also, I found out that over 700 girls, okay, little girls, because that's what this movie is about, is children, okay? Over 700 girls audition for this film. That means, so obviously that's a big number, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think of that exactly. What I think of is the parents behind those 700 girls literally let their daughters, their little children, try out for or audition for this movie. That's sickening. It's absolutely sickening. So the plot basically revolves around a very conservative young girl. She's which I have not heard of this, as Senegalese. She's from
Yeah,
Senegal. I didn't.
she's from Senegal. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know that was the. That's sweet. Anyway, she's a Senegalese French girl with traditional Muslim upbringing, who was caught between traditional values and internet culture. And according to the filmmakers, the film is intended to criticize the hypersexualization of pre-adolescent girls. And in my opinion, this film, its intention was to promote it. And this is coming from France. Okay, this is first time director. Okay, and it's directed by a female, which I didn't know until I started diving into it after I'd already seen the film, which also is just like, that's a head scratcher. Okay. And the way that this thing is shot, like the way that this thing is filmed is absolutely ridiculous. I'll dive more into it. Also did know this, another ridiculous thing. And before I get ahead of myself, European film, okay, culture's different, right? But then after I looked into it, it actually was selected for competition in the 2020 Sundance Film Music Festival. And for those of you who don't know, Sundance is in the States. It's in Utah, okay? And it was submitted on the 23rd of January, and the director won a directing award at an American film festival. The director of this movie won an American award. That goes to show you how screwed up Hollywood is. Okay.
So give me a plot synopsis here. Take me through
Okay.
Yeah, what so they say that they want to like shed a light on these things that are going on,
Right. But if
but
you
they end up kind of
actually
glorifying it. Yeah.
100%, yeah. And what they show is ridiculous. Like it should I even have in my note like it actually should be illegal. Okay. So again, it follows a main character, Amy or Ami, right? And to me, after she finds out that her father has started to run around and on her mother, she starts to rebel. She begins to rebel. Okay. Um, so the
How
first
old
one.
how old is this girl?
So in real life, the age ranges 11 to 13, and at the time they filmed this, she is 11. She's
Okay.
11 years old. Okay. And because it's a foreign film, there was a dub over. Okay. They
As in like
used
they were speaking French when they
exactly,
filmed it. So
but
okay,
they were
okay.
yeah, exactly, but they were using American voices, or English. So they use voices of us. Okay. That's absolutely ridiculous. These girls are 11 years old. Okay. 16 to 18 that's young to begin with. Okay. 18, you're a legal adult in the United States still. 16, that's what the voices sounded like to me. Okay. And there's a huge difference between an 11-year-old sounding voice and a 16 to 18-year-old sounding voice. It's pretty obvious in my opinion. Okay.
Really? Is that
That's
bad?
it's that bad. It's absolutely that bad. So that's number one. Okay. That's number one. Absolutely disgusting. Okay. It shows the main character again, Ami. She steals a friend of the family who is doing like work on the home and just kind of just like handyman type things around the house. She steals his iPhone and is immediately on social media. Okay. Um, then she starts to befriend this group of girls after she sees basically the leader of the group on in her same apartment building. She just so happens to pass by, and this girl, she's obviously a Spanish girl. She's dancing to Spanish music, and she's just simply doing some laundry, but she's dancing around to the Spanish music. Okay, and she's and Ami, the main character, is just kind of like in awe of this. Okay, you can already see she's totally infatuated of like, this girl's moving, like she's dancing, she's moving her hips, whatever. And again, she comes from a very very conservative family, so she begins to befriend this group of girls, and one of the scenes it shows them peer pressuring her to go into, and again she's stolen this iPhone, right? Okay, so she's already stolen something. Great example. So she takes this iPhone into the boys' bathroom after getting talked into it and tries to snap a pic of another boy's penis. And it was the brother of one of the girls of one of the characters. They wanted and they wanted to see it. Again, 11-year-old children. That's what this film is
Damn.
showing. Ridiculous. Um, then there is actual underage nudity in this film. Actual underage nudity. Okay, and I had heard chatter about this, and I'm like, no way, no way, no way, because this is the States. There's absolutely no way, even if there's a big cultural difference. Okay, and a lot of people that are debating this online are saying, well, this is a French film, and a lot of European countries, the age of consent is 15 to 16 years old in various countries. And, you know, I've been to many other countries. I've never traveled over to Europe, and I can definitely agree there's vast cultural differences, okay, between the United States and other countries. But at the end of the day, these are children that we are talking about. These are 11-year-old children. This can never be acceptable, ever, 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 ever. Okay, ever. And there is a scene in the movie where this rival dance group, Okay, this rival dance group, which you can automatically tell whenever you see them, they're watching a video on their phone of one of their routines, and you can automatically tell that they're a little bit older, but still minors, at least in this country, and I would say between 15 and 16 years old, maybe 14 and 16 years old, these girls, okay? Still very, very young. And they've got also a provocative dance scene, right? But at the end of it, at the end of the dance scene, they're all giggling and shit, right? And one of the girls actually lifts up and exposes one of her breasts.
And they kept that in the movie?
They kept that in the movie. I was in total disbelief. I mean, you can easily see this whenever they're watching this dance routine. And these girls literally look at themselves and they're like, "Oh, dang." And it's almost like the look on their faces was almost like they were all in agreement that like, "Oh, dang, we need to step up our game." Like that's the way this film is portrayed. It's ridiculous. Like, "Oh, dang, if they're showing nudity, then we need to step up our game." That's how ridiculous this is. Again, I believe this is to promote pedophilia, and it's not to what do they say again? To the intentions were to criticize the hypersexualization of pre-adolescent girls. Yeah, no, I don't agree with that. To me, it is to promote it. Absolutely disgusting.
How did they
Then
like?
there's
What is
another
their?
scene.
Okay, so yeah, keep going.
Well, sorry. Yeah, there's another scene, okay, where the girls are starting to build a bit of rapport with each other. Okay, and again, the main character continues to practice her dance moves, things like that. Then she starts to teach the other girls a little bit of her own routine, and she's one thing I found strange is really really strange, and it could be total coincidence, but I found it very strange because a couple of the moves, maybe like 3 to 4 moves that this Ami, the main character, is teaching these girls. And again, this film was released in 2020. Okay, this year.
Yeah, it just
Now,
came out like a week ago, right?
well, it was released in, let's see, January. So it premiered at Sundance on the 23rd of January. And this is something that is, I haven't heard anyone talk about this, but the choreography is dead on. And this is really, really weird. Also sickening. So Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion, they've got their song WAP, right? Have you seen the video? Have you seen the dance routine? Okay. So some of the moves that the main character in this movie, Cuties, is doing, again, which was released before WAP, because this premiered at Sundance in Utah on the 23rd of January. Some of the moves that this little girl, this 11-year-old girl, is showing her friends in this film, the choreography is exact in WAP with Meg Thee Stallion and Cardi B. If you don't believe me, go back and look it up. It's exact. So I found that really interesting that like, whoa, wait a minute. Like Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion stole moves from a movie that basically is promoting pedophilia. That's really strange to me. It was really, really strange to me.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Really strange. Yeah. So that's something that not a lot of people are talking about, that I made the instant connection. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, whoa, like, what's the timeline of this? Because that's Cardi B's move. Everyone's doing that on TikTok right now. Everyone. Like, what is going on here? Really, really strange. So it goes on. It even gets worse. So then the girls, they're elated, right? Because they just nailed their routine. So then they sneak into a laser tag facility. Okay. They're just running around the place, just being kids, right? But they're just disrupting a bunch of things. Then a security guard catches them, brings them to the head security guard as they're about to get kicked out. And then once the girls realize that they're not going to get let go and they want to call their parents to get them in trouble, to get them to come pick them up, the girls start dancing seductively for these grown men. And they continue to, and you can see it's obvious that the head security guard is a pedophile. And dude, I'm not even gonna imitate the face that he makes, but he literally was like, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah. You know what? You guys are good. You can go." And he lets them free.
What?
It literally shows these children seducing these grown men to get themselves out of trouble.
11-year-olds.
11-year-olds. Okay? There's more. Dude, the way that they were, okay, again, like the way that it was filmed, like the way that it was shot, okay, would it to me, whenever I was seeing it, like the dancing sequences, like throughout the film, I'm like, okay, that's a hip hop music video. Like that's an adult hip hop music video. It was zooming in shots of their private parts. It was pausing on them. It was showing very little of their face. It was panning left to right and showing very little of their face. And as each one stepped up and then had their own solo routine within the group sequence, it would zoom in on their private parts. And of course they were twerking. It was a hip hop, like these little kids, right? It was a hip hop routine. So the way that it was shot, again, no, their intentions were not to criticize the sexualization. To me, in my opinion, their intentions were to promote it. And I'll go on and tell you more about how ridiculous Hollywood is, which we already know Hollywood is messed up. We already know there's tons of pedophilia in Hollywood. There's tons of rape. There's tons of sexual abuse, sexual assault. Hollywood is messed up, okay? We already know that. But the proof is right here in the stats, too. So I think what really did it for me, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it through this film, is the main character, again, Ami. The guy that she, again, like the family friend who was the handyman, the guy that she stole the iPhone from, okay, he catches her with the iPhone, all right? And of course he's pissed. He takes it from her. Then she's throwing a fit, okay, just like a little kid would. She's screaming, yelling, give it back, give it back. And he's like, no, this is mine. Like, what are you talking? Like, you took this from me.
Yeah.
So to get it back, or to attempt to get it back, she starts to dance seductively, and she starts to take her clothes off. And the guy grabs her by the arm. He's like, "What are you doing? Like, what are you doing?" He's like, disgusted, of course. He's like, "What the heck? Like, what are you thinking? Like, what are you thinking?" And then she really quickly, she just snatches the iPhone, runs to her room, locks herself in the room. And this is where I'm just like, dude, if Netflix doesn't cancel this, like, what the hell is our culture doing? What are we doing? So he's beating on the door, like, I'm not leaving until you give me my phone back. Now I know where my phone is. Give me my phone back. It shows her taking off her bottoms and snapping a pic of her vagina and uploading it to social media.
Ew.
Now, it doesn't show that, but I mean, it obviously, you can tell exactly what she's doing. And then, let's just pause on that for a minute. Let's just pause on that. Dude, like, I have little nieces. That is disgusting. Like, the people who allowed this to get on Netflix, dude, how are they not being crucified right now?
And meanwhile, there's a cameraman sitting there watching this whole thing.
Yeah, and there's a whole crew, and the director was a woman. She won an award in Utah at Sundance for directing this.
So one thing I'm really struggling with is how, like, what is their justification for saying that it's any sort of critique? Like, where does the critique come into play?
I have no idea. I cannot defend this film for one moment. I mean, there's not one moment. I mean, I guess they were trying to show how easily corrupted kids can get on social media, how children have no idea or no sense of reality or consequence on what they post and the amount of people that can see it. Because after that scene, she returns to school the next day, and then everyone is just eyes locked on her. Of course, kids, going nuts, guys, boys, little boys coming up making a pass because they're like, well, she's putting herself out there, so they're going to make a pass, right? And she's ridiculed, bullied, picked on, and I believe she gets kicked out of school. At this point, I was just trying to scoot through the film as fast as I could, but I believe she
For the picture?
for the picture, yeah, yeah. And then her group of friends are kind of like, "What were you doing? Kick her out of the group, whatever." They're disgusted. Uh, I just let me read this real quick. Again, this is on Wikipedia. While receiving generally positive reviews from critics, the film and the marketing campaign by Netflix became a subject of controversy and politicized backlash, receiving widespread criticism online. Yeah, you think?
Yeah.
Some groups and politicians claimed that it sexualizes young girls. You think? And several American politicians, as well as Turkish radio and television Supreme Council, requested Netflix remove the film, which is totally justified. Like, it should have never, ever been put on Netflix. I mean, it should have never been made, in my opinion. This is absolutely disgusting. Now, let's go ahead and hit up IMDb. IMDb, and this is actually what's sickening, and I'm sure all the pedophiles in the United States and across the world are loving this film, you sick bastards. Because when I first checked this about like 4 or 5 days ago, the rating was like a 1.2, I think. Now it's gone up to a 2.4 out of 10, 1 star. Let's head on over to Rotten Tomatoes. Again, absolutely sickening. The tomato meter, which is the critics, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. The critics scored this film an 89%. The critics, the media, Hollywood, people in film scored this an 89%. While the audience score, again, sickening because it's gone up. Whenever I first checked this was 2%. Okay, so days ago, this was 2% audience score. Now it's up to 12%. Still one of the lowest scores I've ever seen on Rotten Tomatoes. I was hoping it would stay at 2% and never rise, but child pedophilia is real and disgusting, so I knew it was probably going to rise. I just didn't think it was going to come up to 10 or 10 more percent to 12%. So absolutely ridiculous. And this thing is still on Netflix. It's still on Netflix. And what's crazy is if you're a little girl or a little boy, you can easily just scroll on Netflix, find this film, and how easily are you going to be influenced? What's going through your mind as an adolescent, as a child, really? What's going through your mind whenever they're exposed to this, whenever they see, if you're an 11-year-old boy and you see these 11-year-old girls acting this way? Man, children with such impressionable minds, when they see this, what are they thinking?
It's a lot to digest, man.
It is a lot. It is a lot. And I'm glad I waited a little bit, because at first it was going to be me on here just screaming at the top of my lungs and calling for a cancel of Netflix and just saying just a whole bunch of bad words. Dude, it
Because
just,
like when I first heard about the cancel Netflix and then kind of looked into it a little bit, like some of the pushback, well, immediately in my mind, it's like, okay, well, there's shows like Dance Mom and like Cheer that make me super uncomfortable. Like, this is just another thing that's gross that has zero appeal to me and isn't even on my radar. So like, I'm obviously not going to watch something like this in the first place. It's probably just another one of these things. But hearing the details that you described, like this sounds like it's that on steroids, actually showing little girl nudity and promoting this like in an incredibly over sexualized way. Like, I'm really having a difficult time comprehending why that would be allowed, why they would be given an award for that. Like, what the hell?
2020 is the worst year, I think, probably of world history in a long, long time. In a long time, especially from a cultural aspect. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
wow.
talked about, impressionable mind. I can't imagine what it's like being a kid growing up in today's culture. Like, a lot of people have said like they're like, oh, if you think that movie is bad, go look at what your daughter is posting on TikTok or something like that. And like TikTok grosses me the F out sometimes. Like, I see TikTok through my Instagram feed
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. So like, or like in my explore on Instagram, that's what I get my exposure to. Like, it just shows a amalgamation of what your followers are watching.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I'll be scrolling through and it's a lot of like basketball and UFC and running and stretching and philosophy, and then boom, it's like a 10-year-old girl doing like a strip dance. Like, what is going on?
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, even so, this seems like it's even layers above that.
Yeah. Certainly.
Uh,
I know. I know. I mean, it just it turned my stomach. I mean, it just. I honestly, I was sad. I was really sad after seeing it, because I'm like, oh my god, like I said, man. I mean, I've got little nieces and nephews, man, and a few of them are around that age, and I'm just like I never want them to ever see something like this, ever, ever, ever. And if they were to see it, like, damn you people for creating this, like, damn you. And from a woman allowed this to happen. She directed the film. Like, oh my gosh, man, it needs to be taken down immediately. It needs to be taken down immediately. And we need to flush this film in the toilet, forget about it, and move on, and not let this crap just completely warp the minds of our children in this country. Like, this is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I'm more of a conservative person, but obviously I work in entertainment. I'm surrounded by liberals, and I don't really see myself as either party. And maybe that's just a conservative in me coming out, but I mean, really, we got to protect the kids. They're literally the future, not to be cliche and corny. They're literally the future. We have to protect the children. We have to. And we can't be letting stuff like this just become the norm in our culture. We cannot. Because if this type of thing starts to become the norm, dude, we're already going down a not so good road, right? This this just straightens the path to me.
It's
It shortens the
crazy to
path.
me because, I mean, you had Harvey Weinstein get busted, and then you had Jeffrey Epstein get arrested, and Ghislaine Maxwell and all that coming to light. And it seems like you would think that seeing these stories come to light would help put a stop to a culture that promotes this type of stuff. But it seems like increased it almost. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've seen in Kentucky, there's been a really bad problem with young girls going missing and
Mm-hmm.
getting abducted and just like taken into sex trafficking. Like Lexington, Louisville, I know, like in broad daylight, girls are getting abducted and thrown into a van or in the trunk of a car and like duct taped shut, like just disappearing.
Yeah, which to me seems so like that's like something out of a movie to me. Like it's like obviously it is happening, but it just still seems so unreal. Just because it's not a main topic of discussion. How is this not? Like that's absolutely crazy. These are helpless, innocent children getting abducted and like you said sex trafficked. And in regards to the ratings coming from the critics and them receiving an award, this film, to me, whenever I saw that, it made sense because I don't know if you've recently saw the news in California where they reduced the law of having a sex with a minor. So they reduced the sentencing. Or sorry, they didn't reduce the sentencing. The sentencing can and will remain the same. Can and will. But what they're doing is they are removing the sex offender list. So so for instance, and this is what's disgusting because they're allowing a 10-year difference in age. Okay. But the cap, I think, is the cap is like, what is the cap? I'll have to go back and find this article and we can cite it in the description because people need to read this. Like California is, dude, it's beautiful. I love California, but they are wacky, man. They are screwed up in the head out there. They're completely screwed up in the head.
So what you're saying is, as long as there's at most a 10-year difference, the
And it
legal age for consent has been lowered.
so for instance, now according to this new law, as long as it's consensual, a 24-year-old can have sex with a 14-year-old. Yes. A 15-year-old can have sex with a 25-year-old and they can date as long as it's consensual without that person being listed on a sex offender list. If they're like, if the parents find and they press charges, it's like, okay, well, yes, that, this person may do time. Okay. So this person may go and do time. And they're saying, they may or may not reduce. It will just depend on a case-by-case basis. So that person may still do time, but the sentences will be reduced. And on top of that, say a 25-year-old has sex with a 15-year-old, the parents are irate. They press charges. They go to court. In court, after the sentencing, say he sentences the 25-year-old to 1 year in jail. He serves his time. During and after, he will no longer be listed on the sex offender list. That's the biggest part of the new law that just passed, is they're trying to remove people being on the sex offender list because it is prohibiting them from finding jobs and careers.
So you're telling me in the midst of a global pandemic where we don't have health coverage for people, where people are struggling economically, and we have failed to legislate any type of economic help recently, where in California, wildfires are ravaging the entire West Coast right now. Instead of legislating things to mitigate those disasters, they're spending time making it easier for people to have sex with young kids.
Yes. The bill has already been passed. It just needs wet ink from the mayor or governor. Yeah.
Who the hell are these people? Like, oh my gosh.
That's who's running Hollywood. That's who's running California. You know, whenever Rogan and Joey Diaz joke about, you know, it's a 100% bail out of California, everyone leave the state. Like, there's a lot of people leaving California right now. And dude, yeah, I had heard that, and I'm like, no way. So I started doing the research, found a few articles. Yeah, it's 100%. It's real. It's real. Think about that. If you're a 25-year-old, you've already graduated from college, you're already into your career, hopefully, okay, and you're dating a 15-year-old sophomore in high school. You're able to go out, travel across the country, drink alcohol, join the military, do whatever, and you're dating a 15-year-old having consensual sex. But then the parents find out, take you to court, and basically you get a slap on the wrist. And you're not listed as a sex offender because that would hurt you from getting a potential job, and that would prohibit you from growth in your future, et cetera, et cetera. Which that is the truth. That is the truth. I do know people who have had run-ins and they're on the sex offender list. Once that happens, you're done. Good luck, buddy. And that already limits you to what jobs you can get. But
don't be out there having sex with little kids. How about that?
Exactly.
Like, there's your solution.
There's your solution. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So now when you go back and you look at Cuties getting an 89% on Rotten Tomatoes from all the critics in Hollywood, doesn't that make sense now? That lines up perfectly.
I heard that there were people, and this is secondhand information, I didn't look into it at all, that were trying to get pedophilia listed as a sexual orientation
and as a mental disorder, and as a mental disorder. So for instance, instead, first of all, yes, people are trying. Yes, people are trying to get it as a sexual orientation, okay, which is ridiculous. I mean, we can't even begin to talk about the idiocracy in that statement. And also listing it as a mental disorder in hopes that, for instance, what was it? Jeffrey Epstein, he would, instead of serving hard jail time because it's a mental disorder, he would go to a mental facility, mental hospital. He wouldn't be incarcerated.
like I'm all for rehabilitation for drug offenders, for example.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, especially if you're a non-violent drug offender, I don't think you should be slapped in prison. I think we should, do exactly, help these people address the core issues going on. But for sex offenders, dude, like that's, I'm having trouble putting, like, just conceptualizing this. Like, this is too much for me, man. Like,
yeah. Pedophiles and rapists, let's just line them up and just, put them to the firing squad. That's my opinion. Line them up. Do it like these other countries. It's a little barbaric. But okay, you want to go out and rape people? You want to go out and if you're a pedophile? Oh, okay. Well, your date's on August 24th of next year after you serve some time in a maximum security prison. We're going to line you up and we're just going to shoot you. That's it. Like, holy shit, man. Yeah. We are struggling as a country right now. We are truly struggling, excuse me. And our culture, man, we're becoming very desensitized to a lot of things. And it's not good. It's not good.
Like, what do you think is, like, I can definitely see, obviously Jeffrey Epstein was incredibly powerful and wealthy and was connected with extremely wealthy people. Do you think it's something as simple as them having so much money and power and being able to influence the politicians and the legislators that they're just essentially bribing people to get these types of bills passed? Like,
Yeah, totally, totally. I mean, we've said it a bunch on here in regards to politics. It's a big club and we ain't in it. I believe those are your words, and it's so
George
true.
Carlin. Yeah.
There you go. And that's so true. The thing, I mean, you and I have both been around, very, very wealthy people. I mean, I've been around so many pro athletes and artists that are just multi millionaires, and the things that they can request, the
Yeah.
things that they're able to do, and they don't even scratch the surface when it comes to the amount of wealth that someone like a Jeffrey Epstein has, or any of these politicians, that are making these backdoor deals, and just,
It's
yeah,
it's
I
really
think it's a lot of that.
terrifying because I mean, you can look up the politicians and I mean, people throw around big names of wealthy people like, you know, everybody knows what I'm talking about there.
Yeah, Bill
Some people
Gates,
say George
Bezos. Yeah.
Soros or, yeah, the Koch brothers. The, the real scary thing is the people that you don't know, that you've never heard of,
Hmm.
that are out there operating and influencing these types of decisions being made. Because I mean, there's
Right.
no non-corrupted legislative body that's out there discussing a bill to help sex offenders in that kind of way. Like, there is nobody out there that's doing that that's not from somewhere being paid to do that.
Yeah, they've sold their soul totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I wish I had some kind of response, positivity. I mean, I got nothing, man. Oh,
Me
it's
neither.
terrifying.
Me neither. Yeah, yeah. Sorry to bring the mood down today, but I I had to speak on that. Like I said, to get one more voice out there, one more opinion on, to me, what should be the winning team, and the winning team should be defeating the sick people who have produced this movie, the sick people who have allowed it to air on Netflix and to be available on Netflix still to this day. You know, um, that should be the winning team right now. And right now, the public, the people who are appalled at this, they're losing because it's still out. Netflix is not making a move. I haven't seen a statement released. Where's your PR team? What's going on here?
And for like, it's hard though, because like, my natural inclination is to say let's vote these people out of office, but there's like, I don't want to get into the weeds, calling out certain politicians, but there's people on both sides. It's not
Yeah,
like you can vote for one party and boom, they're against all this stuff. They might say they
Exactly.
are, but
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, I'm not going to bring up specific examples, but everybody freaking knows what I'm talking about. Like both sides treat pedophiles and extremely powerful and dangerously wealthy people in them.
Yeah.
I mean, just take to whatever platform you have to voice your outrage and vote with the almighty dollar and don't support these type of things. I mean, do we cancel our Netflix accounts? I mean, it sounds like that's the most direct way to make a change or to at
Yeah.
least have our tiny voices heard in some regard in this situation. Like I can't even point in a different direction other than that.
Right. Right.